Hello, everyone. This is Yusuf,
And this is Tamima.
and welcome back to the Health Innovation Playground. Today, we have a special guest, Alex Aísa, a telecommunication engineer and an expert on AI, working in the Innovation Unit at Val d'Hebron. Hello, Alex. How are you?
Hello, fine. You?
Good. So, Alex, tell us a little bit. What do you do?
Well, nowadays I'm working at the innovation department here at the hospital, and we are promoting the use of artificial intelligence to improve the patient experience and to improve the management of the hospital, basically, and to give to the professionals different tools to ease their day, basically.
Okay, let's start from the very beginning. In very simple terms, what is AI?
Well, AI basically is the capability for machines to think as humans. That means a lot of different things. Basically, from starting from a linear regression, that's how we manage day by day in our movement, our self-consciousness of where we are physically, till complex neural networks, just to predict magically the future. So it's all the artificial intelligence is based on the same principles, mathematical principles, that's the prediction. But at the end, the way you implement that prediction changes a lot the results. Basically, we have machine learning, the basic machine learning that it's using structured data just to predict another marker, another biomarker. It's more or less easy to understand all that concepts. Maybe it's difficult, the algorithm to determine the future, but that's the main part of the artificial intelligence that it's useful for healthcare. And then you have now all the neural networks, especially the generative artificial intelligence, with that thinking capabilities that can help us to improve or result in health. So it's the same principle for machine learning and neural networks, but at the end, the results are completely different. For example, machine learning, it's for predicting anything, the evolution of a patient, if he or she will be ill or not, the stage of the pathology. And in the other hand, you have thinking capabilities that can help you just to predict if a radiography will show a tumor or not, or just to help you to rewrite or to understand what patients are trying to tell you or to explain you, and that machine can lead you to a better understanding on your patient. Just there are two completely different ways to apply that artificial intelligence. But basically, there are two sides: the artificial intelligence for healthcare.
But can we say it's just free labor, like an extra one on the team? Or is it actually more capable than human beings?
Probably it's more capable than human beings just predicting, but that prediction is not something that can be delivered straight to the patient, because people has a lot of different conditions. Not only they need an answer, a direct answer to their pathology, but how that pathology will affect their lives. So the role of the professionals are basic, especially with artificial intelligence, because at the end, you cannot trust in just a simple machine to tell you anything, because at the end, people has to understand that information that is coming from an artificial intelligence. At the end, a machine can tell you if you will be ill or not, but you need to understand why you will be ill and how you can avoid that condition or can improve the impact of that condition in your life, basically.
Okay, you mentioned about that in radiology they use an AI and in other specialties. And today, how AI is changing healthcare?
Big
Today,
yeah. Worldwide.
yeah.
The main use of artificial intelligence is to help physicians, especially radiologists, but other specialties, to analyze image diagnosis. This is 95% of artificial intelligence worldwide is based on that. Just a kind of brain within the image machines, just radio diagnostic or cardiology, neurology, and to analyze what the image are trying to explain to us. So that's 95% of artificial intelligence worldwide is that. Then there's a lot of tries, but not try. It's proof of concept, more or less developed or more or less implemented in helping physicians to give better treatments or diagnoses based on guidelines. That's all. It's that two sides are 99% of all the artificial intelligence worldwide. Here in Europe, in America, in China, it's more or less that. Well, in China, they have more things, but it basically is that. Artificial intelligence nowadays. Now we have a lot of proof of concepts, pilots, just to improve, depending on things, many other things. But by now, the reality, approved equal to humans, with all that, with the FDA or EMEA, just approving that algorithms, it's just that.
Okay.
This is the reality. We have a lot of hype with artificial intelligence. For me, it's better because I'm more than artificial intelligence. So I prefer that hype. Like being honest, the reality is that it's for that. Just supporting physicians in interpreting image groups and supporting physicians to give better treatments and diagnosis based on guidelines.
Okay.
That's 95% of artificial intelligence right now.
Okay. And what do you think in healthcare? In implement the AI in healthcare, it seems difficult. And are you agree with that? And why with that?
It's really difficult, but not due to the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, at the end, it's more or less easy. Easy in terms of you can, for example, for machine learning, you can understand what's happening, the kind of results, the metrics for confidence on that results. It's more or less easy. In generative AI, it's a bit different, but the biggest issue, the biggest issue is the data. It's the main barrier everywhere, just to access the data, to manipulate the data, and to give a result. This is the biggest issue in artificial intelligence everywhere, especially in countries where you have laws to protect the privacy of patients. This is the biggest issue. For example, China is leading artificial intelligence implementation. That's to say, maybe United States are leading the development of new models, but the implementation of that models and the real application of that models are led by China without any doubt.
Like, do you think the laws on data privacy are creating more restriction on how AI could evolve and be used today?
No, probably not. We need that laws. We need to protect patient data because it's their data. And that data are very risky for them, for that patient. Maybe not in Europe, in the States where you have the insurance companies and your health depends on an insurer. That are really, really risky. Mm-hmm. So I think it's completely necessary to have that laws. The biggest problem that we have here at the hospital are the trip. How lawyers, not specialized in artificial intelligence, the TIC people or the systems people that are not trained on artificial intelligence and different stakeholders doesn't understand artificial intelligence. So they interpret the laws, that normatives, in a very restrictive way. So just blocking everything because they cannot understand what's happening with that data or what will happen with the data. So they prefer to block everything and to say, no, you cannot access that data. You cannot use that data. We need to anonymize or pseudo-anonymize that data instead of understanding what's happening with that data just to be able to use that data. That's a big problem because we have laws that are really restrictive, but you can explain how to work with that data. It's possible to work with that data, including without restrictions. But in the other hand, you have people that doesn't have that knowledge. At the end, it's a mathematical knowledge just to understand what's happening, but they don't have that, maybe not knowledge, that understanding on what's behind artificial intelligence to be able to open the ways to use that data being within the regulation. So that's probably is that the biggest problem is that the interpretation of that restriction, how they apply that restriction, that at the end in a hospital, in most of the hospitals, is just blocking that information and then go on. Probably this is the biggest problem because we have the algorithms. If we talk about machine learning at the end, it's so easy. Everybody can do machine learning. If you have clean data, or the data set, everybody, including you, yourself, everybody, without any mathematical knowledge, without any specific knowledge, they can run that data set in a platform of auto machine learning. And the platform will tell you, well, the best algorithm to analyze that data set will be, I don't know, maybe a random forest, the precision, sensibility, all that will be that. You can have all that information without any mathematical knowledge, but the part of having that data set in, it's almost impossible everywhere. It's not only an issue here in Spain or in Catalonia, Spain or Europe. It happens worldwide. And this is the biggest issue, probably the data. It's the last frontier for being able to implement artificial intelligence in many different fields within healthcare.
And what do you think? There is a solution for this problem, or with time it's gonna be more easier?
Probably they will understand that we need to. Probably it happens one hospital at the end will take the risk, the first risk, and then the rest of the hospitals will follow him or follow the hospital. Or it will be something like that. A hospital in one country start with that. For example, in Sweden, Karolinska start with that. Sharing data, just offering a robust model of data and offering federated learning. For example, they are not offering their data outside. They're working with their data inside, working with the special public capabilities of processing or computing, and but they are doing everything inside within. So they are asking, do you want to run some algorithm with hospital data? We will run that within the hospital. So there are solutions. It's possible to overcome that barriers, but we need to overcome that barrier.
Okay, the very polemic question. Is AI going to replace doctors?
No, not by now, not in the next 10 years, maybe in the next 15 years or 20 years. The work of the physicians or the role of physicians and nursing will change a lot. It will be completely different. Probably they won't need to write down anything. Interviews will be just human interviews, just to understand patients, giving you that guidelines on how to treat the patient based on their responses, based on many different things. And the role of the physician will be translating all that information to patients and to guide that patient on how to live with that condition. Probably will be a mix of that kind of things.
Okay, we would love to talk a little bit about you. So you are a telecommunication engineer. And
Yeah.
how come you ended up in healthcare and dedicate your professional life to healthcare?
Oof, just when I pay my career working at the university. So when I finished my career, I decided, I don't want to work in telecom, never again, because I was really, really tired working. When I was studying, it was the hardest career in Spain, just so it was supposed to be the best people, just trying that. But I finished that really, really tired. So I went to a consultancy in healthcare. Just say, I want to work in healthcare privately. So I start doing migration from radiology departments to image diagnosis departments. So starting with that plaques that has to be revealed, and you remember that in ancient times, you went to radiology, they take a picture of you, they have to reveal that picture with chemicals, then you have the physical radiology. I start to digitalizing hospitals.
How long ago?
30 years ago.
30 years ago. Okay.
30 years. I started 30 years ago doing that. So ancient times. When people say, no, I started 10 years ago with computers. No. When I was a kid, when I had 10 years old, I was computing and programming. Yeah, so they were freaks in that ancient times with computing, but not with internet. Internet arrives 30, 30 years old. I was studying at the university when internet arrived to Spain. I was in a lab at the university, discrete math. It was called the signature. And we spent 2 hours. We seeing a picture of Pamela Anderson, pixel by pixel. Pixel by pixel. For the first time in Spain, receiving an email, a graphical email from the MIT. And it was a picture of Pamela Anderson, naked. We were 98 guys and 2 girls at the lab, just looking at the screen. So it was the first time we received a real picture with colors. Till that moment, we work in Linux, well, in Unix, in that terms, with a gray screen with black letters, or a black screen with green letters. So it was really, really amazing. The first internet, graphical internet. Said, it's not Telnet. Telnet was just typing a kind of IP to connect with the MIT. Hello, and it was like a kind of tap. We think it was Telnet. The first internet. When internet arrived, it was amazing. So when I started with doing that migration from radiology to digital imaging, I spent there 7 years, just working around Europe, just doing that kind of migration in Paris, Rome, Milan, London, Cardiff, spending, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 5 months in every different city. At the end, I finished in Mexico, just doing that kind of migration for public hospitals in Mexico. And then they contact from Novartis in Spain, just offering me to create the digital department for Novartis Spain, just from scratch, without anything, just creating the first website, start sending commercial emails to physicians, creating a database. Then I start creating that digital department for Novartis. I start alone, and 8 years later, we were more or less 40 people, just 40 people developing all that kind of strategies, websites, analyzing data from physicians, what they did in at the websites. They were responding emails. We mix all that information coming from the field force, just to mix all that kind of things. And then I start to analyze all that data, because at the end, you were in the digital department, but there were no return on investment. They were giving you money, but you cannot show in that moment. You cannot show any impact in physicians. So they start to ask, well, why you have 40 people here? You have to show how are you impacting. Then that's why I start with all that data mining, trying to analyze how that data, how can you predict if I don't know if it's possible to say that. Can you predict if a physician will prescribe your product based on their behavior on the net and with their behavior with the physical representatives? Can you explain that? Then I start with all that machine learning knowledge, just trying to understand it, because at the very beginning it was more or less easy. You can predict if they will prescribe or not. The first try is just trying to create a linear regression, just mathematical. Then you start discovering that nothing is so linear. It's not, maybe you are inviting that physician 100 times, but he will not prescribe you. You have to do different things depending on the behavior of that physician in the net, if they are responding or not the emails, if they are jumping into a website that you're recommending them, if they are doing that kind of things. You can discover if that physician is. So that's why I start with all that kind of things. Then I decide to quit. I decide to create my own company for supporting Alzheimer caregivers. Completely different sense. You need a lot of data in that time because I was really focused on data in that moment just to predict. The idea was to predict the evolution of the patients with Alzheimer based on interactions with their caregivers. I spent there 4 years, but I bankrupt at the end because it wasn't prepared. The development wasn't prepared. We don't have that artificial intelligence that we have now. It was just an idea, thinking or imagine that we were really close to that artificial intelligence, but in that moment we weren't so close, honestly. Then I started in a company, a marketing company for big drug launches worldwide. That launches drugs for about 1 or 2 million per year of treatment per patient. So it was really huge. I spent there 4 years because but I didn't like that. Just doing that, all that marketing question. You need a lot of that numbers, working with the numbers. And so I was, in that moment with the machine learning, I was really, really focused on machine learning, just trying to understand everything. In that moment, you never see machine learning. No machine learning, not artificial intelligence. Everything was data mining. It's data mining and understanding data. Including not data mining because it seems that you are data mining. You are so professional with data. No, it's. Then I restart again with the Alzheimer company by myself. I spent there 4 years. I almost succeed, but the problem was that the artificial intelligence, I was trying to use a generative artificial intelligence prior to GPT-3. That was with GPT-2, but it was impossible to use that in Spanish in the moment, completely impossible. I have to stop, and then I started to work with a company that was called Actana. And I was, as a consultant, an independent consultant, supporting a pharma company, I'm not telling the name, in different countries to analyze data from physicians, coming from the web, coming from reps, coming from Impact, and trying to explain the reps the best strategies to make that physician prescribing your drugs, prescribing drugs that really expensive drugs in that countries, trying to lead the physician to that point on they are able to prescribe your drugs based on their behavior, based on it was the reps receive a message every day in their mobile. Today you should go to that hospital because the road is clean. There will be that physicians, visit that physician first, offer her just to write an article, show her that presentation, especially the 2 slides. Then you go to visit that other physician, offer him to do that, offer a coffee, talk about football because, all that kind of things. And then the rep, every single rep received that kind of planning for the day. And then when I realized that it really impacted, it was really a good algorithm and you can you can promote the prescription of your product. It was during the pandemic, during the confinement. I had a kind of epiphany. So I saw, what I'm doing. I cannot explain what I'm doing to anybody. At the end, it was a secret job. Honest, I cannot. I wasn't able to explain anything, neither to my parents, neither to. So I decided, no. I have my apartment paid, so I'm good. Let's go to a public hospital instead of working for pharma companies. Let's go to a public hospital.
What side?
Yeah, no, just to say, what are you doing? You can compare. What are you doing with your life? I'm helping companies to sell more drugs, or I'm working in a hospital saving lives.
Wow. Yes.
Saving lives. And so I decided to come here to the hospital and quitting just my earnings just being cut by 1/4 of the money I was earning. It was difficult to explain to everybody why I'm leaving that job just for coming to the hospital. Yeah. But when they realized that I was happy, completely happy, a different behavior or different way of life at the end. So I'm not really happy with that decision.
And what you did with digital and then with AI, now you're doing this in Hebron at the Innovation Unit. Why do you think every hospital need an innovation unit like Hebron, and what do you do here?
Well, the question is that if you are not pushing people to do new things, people are really comfort. They have all that comfort zone, everybody, and they want to remain there. If you are not pushing them to improve, to discover new things, to do different things, at the end, you will have maybe one person per team that are trying to find better ways to do that or better ways. But if not, if you are not pushing people, everybody will just remain the way they are. But there's a problem, not only inflation, not only that, but the quantity of people that we are treating every year is increasing. But the amount of money the government are giving to us is completely blocked. It's not decreasing, but it's the same the last 3 years. So you have more activity, more patients, more needs, but the same amount of money. So you need to improve, always you need to improve. I think that all the innovation units are really important just to push the hospital in different levels, in different ways, just to improve the day-by-day routine. Not only discovering new ways of doing that, improving the way that they are citing patients for visits. You have to improve in all different stages of the hospital. Everywhere, you have to improve everywhere. So you need that kind of units to push people to innovate. We cannot innovate. I cannot innovate in the neurology department or in the cardiology department because I'm not a cardiologist or neither a neurologist. I don't know how to improve exactly that process within neurology. Just is the people who are working in neurology. But people who are working in neurology, if you are not pushing them or not only pushing, just offering them tools to improve, ways to motivate people, you need that units, the innovation units, just to push all that people or all the hospital. Because 5 years ago, all the innovation units were more focused on creating startups or licensing ideas. But I think it's not a good idea because at the end you are pushing one concrete professional just to create their idea, just to improve, to sell that, and you are promoting all that, I don't know, that selfish of the people. I think it's better to promote a culture, a cultural question that it's shared by all the people at the hospital, just being able to improve in that day by day, because at the end, you need to improve daily, because if not, only the limitation of resources, the inflation at the end, today you have, I don't know, 1 million euros. But tomorrow, in 1 year, that €1 million will be the same as if you have 900,000 euros. you have lost 10% of the value of the resources you are receiving. So at least you have to cover that 10% that it's lost due to inflation, and then all the limitations, because you have more and more and more and more people, because we are receiving a lot of immigrant people, and we have to attend them. You cannot leave them. There are ideas on, I don't know, not talking about politicians, but there are parties that are telling, no, you don't have to treat that people. But at the end, including if you are ultra right or ultra left, if you have somebody in your country, in your city, in your neighborhood that has a terrible illness, it will affect you. So you have to treat everybody. Everybody in your country should be treated, should be healthy, because if not, it's an issue, a big issue. And so that's why I think that healthcare should be universal everywhere. But it's my opinion. It's not.
But can you tell us about a specific project you worked on in the hospital that made the workflow better or better patient outcomes?
Well, for example, now we're working many of them. One of them is just to detect adverse drug reaction. Just by now, only 10% calculated. 10% of adverse reactions are reported. So it's a big issue, because if we don't have all that, if we are not collecting all that information, we won't be able to predict if someone will have an adverse reaction to a drug. If we have gathering a lot of information about all the reactions based on patient profiles and treatments, if we are able to gather all that information and to detect all that adverse reactions, in the near future, we will be able, prior to give any patient any drug, we will be able to predict if that drug will work or not, or will create an adverse reaction. Another project, for example, is a project predicting the evolution of a patient in an intensive care room, predicting the evolution, not in medical biomarkers, but in nursing biomarkers. What nursing? It's writing in Gazette here in their system, in the informatic system. What nursing? It's writing down or including that information, just to predict the evolution of that patient within the intensive care. It's really a good thing, because at the end we have discovered that the information coming from nursing, it's really important, especially in that direct contact with patient. It's not for predicting a cancer, it's not for predicting a long-term condition. It's for predicting what will happen with that patient in the next hour, in the next 3 hours, because it's an intensive care unit. You have to balance all that resources, because if you have 5 different people having a stroke at the same moment, it will be a problem. So that's why we are creating that kind of risk map on the evolution of patients within the intensive care room.
It's using AI.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, for example, as a medical professional, if I have an idea with AI, and for example, I go to the Innovation Unit, how I should start? Like, how do you recommend to implement something that, for example, the clinician has an idea and they won't really approve the unit, and how they should start?
Well, the first step is coming to us, just to analyze the idea and if it's possible or not. Just the basic steps are just analyzing the idea, what you want to predict at the end, what kind of information can we gather to predict that idea, and then to plan the best way to gather all that information and to create the algorithm to be able to predict that question. So at the end, it's not so difficult. The most difficult part is just to create the same approval, the ethical committee approval. That's the hardest part. because at the end, you have to explain why you need that data, what you want to predict, if that prediction will impact on the patient in a good way, or in the patient or system or hospital, if that prediction will improve our service or the quality of life of patient, and having all that two things more or less balanced, that we need that data coming from hospital, or maybe we need to collect new data from that patient. Just with having that data, we can predict that prediction can improve, well, patient well-being, hospital economical health or process health, or system or a systemic improvement. Just for example, when you are trying to predict cancer triage, for example, this is for the system or the whole society. You have all that. And when you have all that big idea on that question, we help the physician just to write down the projects for the ethical committee. When you have all the approval of the ethical committee, you have to talk with the people who are managing the data within the hospital, just to decide how you will gather the data, how you will treat the data, and creating all that algorithm. Then you have to talk with all the department or area where you will create that trial, because at the end you need to validate that algorithm. You can have the first algorithm, just create it at the lab, and then you have to create that trial. Again, more or less official, that trial, but you need to create that trial, and you need to convince the people at the area just to use that intelligence, and you have to explain why are they using that, how that will improve the well-being of the patient or the professional or the hospital or the system. That's more or less. It's not a complicated step, because we have here engineers, pharmacists, physicians. We can have that big picture on how that project can be managed, and then we work step by step with the physician or the team that wants to develop that, connecting all the different parts of the hospital, just to be able to carry on with the project.
And do you think the hospitals of today are ready for AI integration? And if a startup has a new AI solution, how should it adapt this solution to the hospitals?
The biggest problem by now are the informatic systems of the hospital. For example, here, the SAP platform, it's a big issue, because we are not using the standard SAP. It's a specific SAP for our hospital or for the Catalan system. Then you have to integrate all that data, all that algorithms within the systems of the hospital. And the biggest issue worldwide are the IT departments at the hospitals, because they are really focused in the digital transformation. That means including machines, digitalizing everything, blah, 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 instead of being focused on artificial intelligence. That to say that artificial intelligence for healthcare, being honest, start with ChatGPT. Prior to that, you were creating that algorithms of machine learning, but nobody understand anything. Just, okay, you have an algorithm to tell me if I have to focus in that radiography in that point. Okay, it was a kind of, it's helpful, but they didn't feel that as an artificial intelligence or an intelligence. It was a kind of helpful recommendation till now. Then when ChatGPT appears, they realized that artificial intelligence may be something different than just a prediction. And then they start to think on that, but we are not prepared, basically, from the IT departments, just to being able to implement that artificial intelligence strategy within that prior step that they have, that was the digital transformation. They are still in integrating all different machines, different devices to the hospital systems. rather than preparing the artificial intelligence. So they have that side. They are more or less based on that side because most of the IT departments are led by people that are coming from that world, not from that other world. Now, most of them are realizing that the future is there, not there. And then they are trying to jump from one side to the other. But by now, it's not a quick question.
So you think it's going to be in parallel, like digital transformation is still on this way? Because for me, digital transformation in health was smooth. Well, smooth, let's say. Yeah.
I come from a hospital that we're still doing everything by pick.
Yeah, there's still, of course, but I mean, in general, right now we are still finishing the time when we digitalize everything, you know? But at the same time, we already started with AI and it goes pretty fast, no? In comparison with digital transformation.
Probably you have to run, especially because all of them will want to jump in the artificial intelligence. Yeah. All of them will want to jump. No, they will want. They will have to jump in artificial intelligence. So probably artificial intelligence will lead the digital transformation in many hospitals. Mm-hmm. Hospitals that are now working in paper or they don't have a clinical history, yeah. All that hospitals, we jump directly to artificial intelligence, creating all that digital structures just to support the artificial intelligence. But it will be really
like upgrade.
Yeah.
No,
not an upgrade. It was mandatory. It will be mandatory for them to be digitalized. Because if not, they won't be able to jump into their artificial intelligence wave, and they will be out really quickly. Yeah, quickly.
What do you tell to healthcare professionals? How can they use AI today to make their work better, smarter, and faster?
I would recommend them to start with simple platforms, ChatGPT, Gemini, SciSpace, all that tools for science, for writing, for analyzing papers, for doing book reviews or bibliographical reviews, all that kind of questions that till now they used to go to Mayo Clinic just to get some information about pathology. Right now they used to go to the website of Mayo Clinic or that websites that had a lot of information on illness. Now they have a lot of tools that are really impressive compared with 3 or 4 years ago. You can ask for, I have a patient of 69 years old, female, blah, 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 with that condition. Blah. Can you tell me what? Just having that tools within your hands in your computer, it's amazing. It's amazing. They're not using that platforms. Just a few of them are using ChatGPT or Gemini just to analyze papers, just to find literacy or to find an article or to find, and you have specific platforms, for example, SciSpace, Open Evidence, are platforms that never has an hallucination because they are only training in scientific papers. So, but they are not using that. Just a few of them are using that. So I think the first step is start using the tools for them just to have a more or less an idea what that tools can do for them, for the daily practice, just transcribing a conversation, just organizing that transcription in a kind of easy template, just qualifying everything with I don't know, with Medra or with I don't know, that kind of little tools that can help them in day by day, and they will have the idea on what artificial intelligence can help to us day by day. And having that little tools for the daily practice, they will be able to understand more or less in the long term how all the platforms that are being used for a daily practice can impact on the practice of their with their patients. For example, predicting the evolution of a patient, predicting if that drug is good or not for that patient, predicting the stage or the evolution of that question based on the drugs I'm giving to them. They will be able to But I think that they have to go step by step. I'm a freaky. I'm always with computers. When I was a kid, I remember myself with a computer when I was a kid 30 years ago or 40 years ago. I remember that, but people are not in that way. People discover internet, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago or 10 years ago. They start to have internet 10 years ago. So we cannot push people to change their mindset in just a couple of days. They have to, for you, probably it's easier. It's easy to understand artificial intelligence, but for my parents that are 80, they cannot understand how a computer can learn, improve. So, and it will happen with a lot of people, including young people by now. So the first step is to include all the platforms in a day-by-day basis for them to realize what's happening. You cannot push them to, you have to study artificial intelligence by now, and tomorrow you have to learn everything, because at the end it's impossible. For a lot of them, it's a concept barrier to understand that. And I think that the main effort should be to guide people to understand what artificial intelligence really is.
Okay, and from 6 years from now, how do you see healthcare with artificial intelligence integrated?
How do you see the future with AI?
I think that it will change in 6 years, maybe not a lot. 6 years in healthcare are just a few days.
15, 20 years.
But probably the profession will change a lot. It will be more human.
Mm-hmm.
By now, the physicians want to believe that they are friends of their patients, that they are really close to their patients, but at the end, it's not. It's just a feeling, especially from physician and nurse. For patients, it's not the same. For patients, depends on the physician and the nurse. In the future, that relationship between health professionals and patients will change a lot. Probably will be more human. Patients will have more information. Physicians will have a lot of different tools. But at the end, will be more a conversation. For example, the shared decisions will be real at the end, because any patient will have the possibility to take a picture of a spot in their arm and to discuss with the physician. No, I think it's maybe it's not that. Maybe it's a melanoma. Maybe it's not. They will have that capability. So professionals will have to develop new skills just to be able to convince their patients that the professional criteria is better than a standalone machine criteria. So I think that it will change a lot, and people will trust the physicians and nursing because they have that human touch that the machine doesn't have. But for developing that human touch, professionals should train that human touch. And for being able to train that human touch, they will need a lot of artificial intelligence tools just to help them to being able to forget all that bureaucracy, all that writing down anything, just trying to analyze that paper, searching for papers, because all that kind of questions will be led by machines, artificial intelligence machines. I don't want to talk about only artificial intelligence, because at the end, there will be a lot of algorithms not based on artificial intelligence, just common decision trees at the end. And we will have a lot of all that automations. But all that automations and our artificial intelligences will lead the professionals to have a more human component in the relationship. Because if at the end, every single biomarker will be gathered by machines. You have a machine that will pulse, tension, blah, 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 all that kind of things. Nurse will not touch patient. Everything will be completely autonomous. But the nurse or the physician will need to collect that information that are not visible to machines. or maybe that patient are not expressing directly. Probably, I don't know, imagine a woman that is suffering gender violence. She's really afraid and she doesn't want to talk with the physician about that. But then I think that we will need physicians being able to detect that things that are not detectable by machines. Yeah. So probably healthcare professionals will be more
humane.
Yeah. I think that machines will humanize the profession.
Well, I'm very excited for these days. Like, we spend a lot of years studying a lot of books, and we almost forget how to work like humans and to really empathize with the patients. And I hope AI will let us do that better. And well, it was a very nice chat.
Yes, it was very interesting. Wow. Just wow. So yeah, thank you very much, Alex. And well, till next episode.
Yeah.
Thanks to you both. And hopefully our audience will start to implement artificial intelligence day by day.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.